Hi Karen, I thought I'd record a video with you because as you know, every minute of my day is taken up with being very busy and training. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Bruce's understanding of going out in the world. What I've found is that, you know, he's not reactive at all to my dogs. And in the house, I almost encourage them to be kind of, when it's time to go out, diving out. Although I can stop it, I do that so that dogs that are here on board, such as Bruce, gets used to dogs moving in that fashion, because that's real life. If I kept everyone very, very quiet all the time, Bruce wouldn't be, you know, it'd be like he would be living in a bubble, and we don't want that. We want him to have as many real life experiences with my safe dogs, balanced dogs in my home as possible before he goes out into the real world. So initially, Jetta and Akira diving past his crate to get out for their walk, he'd be now doesn't care about that. He's used to that. And people coming in and out, he is getting more used to. The ones that he's familiar with, he's fine. The ones that are strange to him, he can still react a little bit to. Hang on a second, I'll be back. Okay, so Bruce has been out walks while he's on leash with Jetta and Akira and Josephine this morning, and there's no sign of any aggression because he's kind of calmed down, and I've watched his approach and I know they're balanced dogs. That's great. I need to get him used to being around strange dogs, as we know, so I will slowly develop his ability to go out with my dogs on a longer line, and a flexi longer line, and then drag my longer line. Eventually he will get there, I've no doubt. But when I took him to Stirling yesterday, day before yesterday, it was very busy. So Stirling's small little centre with a farmer's market, 3 roads onto a pedestrian walking part. It's not big, and the entrance to a shopping centre, and people queuing up for the sandwiches. There were pigeons, dogs, skateboards, kids crying, lots and lots going on. So we saw maybe about 8 dogs, and we just walked around there for about 40 minutes. Now, when I go out the walk, I don't walk too fast, I take my time, I live right in the moment. So slowing everything down is really important, because Bruce will make you speed up and be cautious and think, try and oppose that. Do the exact opposite, where you're like, okay, this is our gift, free training ground. Okay, so the first thing he did, he saw a pigeon. Now, he's not chasing the chickens at home, but it's all environmental context. When he's at home, he knows at home with me, he doesn't do that. So we have to reteach him when he's in a strange environment. So he went to get the chicken, straight away he just pounces, and it's almost like it's reflex with him, because he's a wee hunting dog. He's clearly lived a life of survival or just freedom somewhere, and everything seems to be new to him. So where he goes, it gets things. I get. So I just jump in there with the when I say jump in there, I quickly note that he is going to go for the pigeon. So before he does anything, I ask him at a 4, pop on the 4 on the e-collar, and a little pop on the leash, and he's like, oh, okay, so I've not to do that then. There was no reactivity, no verbal screaming or barking or anything like that when we saw each dog. The first dog we saw was a little French Bulldog, blue French Bulldog puppy, just sitting there kind of not really aware of things now, that was on a flexi leash with a child, so you've got to be very careful about that, because the flexi leashes aren't always locked, and you don't want him getting right up close and personal with the dog, because his approach is all wrong, and he could do that and really do the whole politeness and the ability to meet and greet is, for him, you need to take it right back to basics, because he doesn't have it, and the dog will take that the wrong way and put him down in one way or another, whether it's a bite, an attack, and which will have a lasting effect on him. And also his approach to puppies, you can't let that happen, because that you have a responsibility to the other owner's dog. So he went to go as he did with the chicken. We just popped on a correction at that, and a wee pop with the leash, and he was back again with the, oh, I don't do that then. And we wandered around, there was another 8 dogs, and although he was interested, there was no reaction and there was no diving at them. But while he still has that mindset, then he doesn't even get to look. Once he calms down and he's way more polite, and his head has changed from being this whole he doesn't get to look. When he shows me that he is quiet, well mannered, and he's not just going to pounce into other dogs' space or at them, he can look. And what he'll tend to do at that point is he won't be looking with his eyes, he'll be looking with his nose, the sniffing, which is way more dog. That's better, that's more balanced. Oops, I'm losing you here. So that's what we're waiting. I actually have high hopes for Bruce, because he is fantastic. He's a lovely dog, an absolute joy, and any of the stuff that he's doing, although it's quite extreme, he genuinely is, he can't think of anything else to do. That's a genuine thought process I see within him, that he's just like, well, this is what I do, or I'm activated, so I'm going to do that. So what we're doing is we're retraining the mind, and that takes a bit of time. So that means that with those dogs in that setting at that time in Stirling, he didn't do that. But what we need to do is get him lots more exposure. So we're talking where dogs go, Dobies, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Crieff, Comrie, Bridge of Allen, all these places that are quite busy. We need to go more and more. So initially we start when it's fairly quiet and is less of a challenge, just to let them understand, think and learn. If we dive in at the deep end, we don't want to set them up to fail, and that's what could happen. So we don't go to the extreme. As it happened in Stirling, it was fairly busy. He did really well. And it was only a short period of time, but he did well. He's still busy going, oh my goodness, is the sky blue? Yeah, kind of thing. And today I've just had him in South Queensferry, actually, near Edinburgh. I was going to go into Edinburgh, but I had another appointment. And there was a very, very busy school playground, lots of noise. Primary school playground, lots and lots of noise. People to pass, dogs in the street, and he did really good. I mean, his first instinct is still there to go, maybe in this context I do it, maybe here, because he almost forgets, no, this is now the pattern that we're adopting wherever we go. We're going to be calm, we're going to be happy, and we're going to just sniff around. But there's something called the structured walk I'll talk about. But when I say sniff it, I mean sniff the air. I'm not like talking about him going off places. At the moment I want to be completely in control of what he's doing all the time, so he understands there's a continuation of our contact. Because what I did notice when he was out on the heath land, the heritage land at the back on a long line, and we were practicing recall, the minute he disengages with you, he's in his own world, and we can't have that. We need him to remain connected to us somehow. I'm not talking necessarily physically, I'm talking about in his mind, because he was off, bang, I'm away. detached from me, and we want to have that communication. This is where your e-collar helps, but I need to do more work with him on all the other things. So again, this is why we have the time that it takes to do the work with the e-collars. Way more than that. It's everything to change that state of mind. Now, so what we've just discussed there, or I've talked about, is the contextual environment, where he might learn something at one point on that day in that environment, but the next day he'll go back to the same behaviour, because he doesn't realise that, no, this is what we do this day as well, and in this place. So over time, the more exposure he gets, he'll start to realise, oh no, this is just the way it is. This is how we deal with stuff. Okay. So there is freedom of movement, but he doesn't get all that kind of acceleration and recall and long line stuff proper until we get his mind remaining calm with us. So he is doing fun stuff as well, and he's really engaged with that. He is desperate for the right communication. You can tell that this is exactly what he's been looking for. So well done you. He loves to communicate with his people. He loves to problem solve, and he wants to get things right. You can tell he's a working dude, and he wants it to get right. So he's lovely to work with. Very, very nice to work with, because he enjoys every moment of it. Anyway, I'll leave this here, and I'll do little continual updates of observations and things that I remember that I need to tell you. Okay?